Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series. Actually, the end of this series, as this is the final weekend to get into the Kentucky Derby. Two more prep races to take place on Saturday, April 10th. One of those is the Lexington to Keeneland, but in this video, we're going to take a look at the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby, the final prep race at Oaklawn Park this winter as we move into the spring now. This one's offering 100 Derby qualifying points to the winner of this race, so whoever wins is likely to be in that Kentucky Derby field. Let's throw up the field of 6 for this race, and we're likely to have a heavy favorite in the number 5 Concert Tour. He's listed at even money on the morning line. He's likely to go off much shorter than that, probably in the 2 to 5 range. And there's just a lot to like about this horse, who's undefeated in 3 career starts for Bob Baffert, who was always dangerous shipping into Oaklawn Park. And he's already beaten a lot of these horses before, having coming out of that Rebel Stakes, the local prep for this. His main rivals are the number 2 Caddo River and the number 3 Hosier. We'll take a look at each of those horses' PPs, but before we get into those, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race, and you see those 2 chicklets shown out on the front end. Those are the number 2 Caddo River and the number 5 Concert Tour, and you see Concert Tour shown just ahead of Caddo River in the pace projector, and that is the way they sorted themselves out last time out in the Rebel when Concert Tour set the pace over Caddo River. I would imagine, though, those positions will be reversed in the early going of this Arkansas Derby. Caddo River's connections have been pretty clear that they're likely to send their horse to the lead this time. There was some criticism of his rider, Florent Giroux, in the Rebel last time when they rated him off Concert Tour. I think this time, especially from the inside post position, they are going to be intent on getting to the lead with Caddo River. So we're likely to see Concert Tour stalk. But these are the 2 speeds in the race. I don't anticipate they're going to be moving that quickly up front. So I think it will be a pretty even to moderate pace from a fractional standpoint, and we'll see if that has any effect on running styles late in the race, but I think it's one it's going to be tough to close into. Moving on to those main contenders, and we're just going to talk about 3 of them, beginning with that heavy favorite, the number 5 Concert Tour. And this is a horse that I think you can have a different opinion about whether you like him moving on to the Kentucky Derby based on how he runs here. And that's probably not going to be commensurate whether or not you think he's going to win this race, because he just looks really formidable in this Arkansas Derby. And that's primarily because he's already beaten most of the horses in this field. Let's take a look at his victory last time out in the Rebel. And actually 5 horses that are in this race out of the 6 are all coming out of the Rebel. And 4 of those obviously finished behind Concert Tour last time. You see coming into the stretch here, Concert Tour had already been on the lead, and Joel Rosario just barely moving his hands as this horse easily runs away from the rest of the field. They're all under heavy drives, and Concert Tour is just kind of being eased up to the wire here. This was a very visually impressive win, going the mile in the 16th distance. He just has to get an extra 16th here to win the Arkansas Derby against many of the same horses. I think the big question for Concert Tour is he going to move forward, and will others move forward more, particularly that rival Caddo River, who we're going to get to in a little bit. But to answer the former question, I think Concert Tour actually is going to take a step forward coming out of that Rebel performance. I mean, I'm not sure that he's a horse that is ultimately going to want a mile and a quarter, but I don't anticipate him having trouble with the mile and an eighth. And based on his workouts that I've watched coming out of that Rebel, he certainly looks like he's doing as well as he ever has. I watched his most recent workout on April 3rd when he won 6 furlongs and 112 and change. And coming through the lane that day, I mean, I took out the stopwatch because I looked like he was going pretty quick, and I caught him going his quarter from the 3/16 pole to the 16th out past the wire in 22 and 1/5 seconds. I mean, he was just flying at the end of that workout, and that's exactly what you want to see from a horse who's coming into a big test, a horse that's feeling good and is doing well in the mornings. So I get that impression from Concert Tour, and I think he's going to be pretty tough to beat in this Arkansas Derby at a very short price. His main rival is the number 2 Caddo River, and he's the horse that some people were upset about the ride last time when Florent Giroux from the inside post elected to rate him off Concert Tour. I don't think they're going to do that this time. They're going to send this horse to the lead and try to set the pace and hope that he's the one that gets the 9 furlong distance better than his main rival. I'm just concerned that Caddo River might not be as good as Concert Tour. I don't think that 6-length deficit last time was just due to the trip. I think he didn't take the step forward that a lot of people expected him to out of that Smarty Jones. And in retrospect, he really wasn't beating much in that Smarty Jones, even though he won it visually impressively. And throughout his career, he just really hasn't taken that step forward from a speed figure standpoint that Concert Tour has. And looking at the TimeformUS numbers, Concert Tour has run faster than Caddo River in all 3 of his starts. He's an omnifig in this race. So I just have trouble seeing Caddo River turn the tables on Concert Tour, even with a potentially better trip in this Arkansas Derby. I think the one other horse that you might want to consider is the other Bob Baffert runner, the number 3 Hosier, who was second last time in the Rebel. He did finish ahead of Caddo River that day, but Hosier was just picking up the pieces at the end of that race. He never felt like he was any kind of real threat to Concert Tour as he lagged back around the far turn and just came up the rail at the end of that race to get second. I suppose he might be able to improve going the 9 furlong distance as a son of stamina influence pioneer of the Nile, but he has not shown the kind of brilliance that we've seen from Concert Tour, so I'd be surprised if he's able to turn the tables on his stablemate, but potentially he can get into the mix underneath once again, and I think that's the best way to use Hosier in this race. So we'll throw out my top picks in this race. Really, I just thought there were 3 to talk about. I mean, Get Her Number and the number 1 Super Stock. I guess they're horses that you could also consider underneath, but I didn't view them as win candidates in this race, and I just didn't really have a clever take on either of them. I just think that the number 5 Concert Tour is likely to win this race at a short price, and we'll see how fast he runs, and maybe he'll be one of the favorites heading on to the Kentucky Derby. But I'm not trying to beat the number 5 Concert Tour in the Arkansas Derby on Saturday at Oaklawn Park.